The art of communication is the language of leadership, more so in the healthcare. Did you know that organizations spend billions on malpractices as a result of communication failure? So, why is communication important? Communication is not only important as a professional, but it's important on personal level. It makes you human. It helps you to connect with another human being, and that's what sets us apart from other creatures. Hi, this is your Priya Physio, and today is one of our first topics for a weekly theme. And today we are going to focus on communication skills. Before we move on, subscribe to my channel and share this video with your colleagues and friends. If you haven't already hit the bell icon, please click that now so you get live updates of when my videos are uploaded. Right, so let's dive in. I've created a mind map, and that's how I would like to share with you what are the four important components of communication. Number one, verbal. Number two, non-verbal. Number three, written. And number four, active listening. When it comes to verbal communication, there are four things to remember. Speak clearly and confidently. Observe your tone and language. And ensure there's a two-way exchange of information and instructions and complex concepts. So when you're instructing somebody and delivering complex concepts, make sure you're not using jargon. Okay, what is jargon? Jargon is either it could be a short form, a mnemonic, or a language that the audience doesn't understand, don't understand, right? So what is speaking clearly and confidently? I'll give you an example. Okay, take an example of a team meeting, and you are on the spotlight to talk on something that you've already worked on. And when you're speaking, you're either talking too fast or too slow. Okay, especially if you're talking too fast, your message is not going to be conveyed as good as you think, because you might know a lot about that topic, but people who are listening to you are listening it for the first time, and that's new to them. So make sure you're speaking slowly, clearly, and confidently. And to boost that confidence and to have that authority when you're talking, make sure you use pointers. For example, I have three things to share with you. Number one, number two, number three. Three is a magic number which engages people and it helps you set that authority. They know, right, I think this person knows exactly what they're talking about because they are saying three things. So they must have thought about what they're talking, right? So that's what is called speaking clearly and confidently. Number two, tone and language. Did you know there is a rule for communication which is called 73855, right? Now imagine a pie chart and divide that pie chart into three sections: 7%, 38%, and 55%. 7% of the message is conveyed through spoken words. Shocked? Yes, your spoken words only contribute to 7% of the whole message that you've communicated, right? Next is 38%. Now, what is that chunk? 38% is your tone, the way you talk, okay? The way you talk and the tone that you set will ensure whether you are confident, whether you know what you're talking about, and whether you're respecting the person that you're talking to. So, tone is important, right? Number three, and the biggest chunk of communication, is your body language. Imagine you enter a meeting room and you're going to be the chair. Even before you sit down, people are looking up to you as the facilitator, as the leader for that day, for that meeting. Okay, so even before you open your mouth, people have already set a perceived image of you, right? And that's because you have been communicating since you entered the room through your body language. Especially when somebody is talking, right? How carefully are you listening to them? Are you being distracted by something else that's going on around you? Are you checking your phone or messages when somebody is talking to you? Now, this is really critical, especially at home. When your kids come up to you and start talking something, are you actually leaving everything aside and looking at them, or you're looking at your phone, scrolling through your Instagram and Facebook, and you're just nodding? Do you think that is what type of body language are you using when your child is talking to you? And if you start thinking at that level, you will realize and you'll get habituated into something that will happen unknowingly at work. So pay attention on every single minute, hour of your waking, every single minute of your waking hour, of what your body language conveys to people, and that is the most important aspect of communication. Okay, so let's move on. Communication is always a two-way exchange of information, whether you're talking or not. Right? Agree? Two-way, you're listening and you're talking. Right? But sometimes when you're listening, do you show that you're actively listening to somebody? Or do you just listen to listen? Or do you listen to respond? Most people don't listen to listen, they listen to react, or they listen to respond. They think they've said something, I've got to respond. No, you've got one mouth and two ears for one reason. You could listen twice as much as you talk. So talk less, hear more. Okay? Then, last one in verbal is instruction and complex concepts, right? So when you're delivering messages and when you're instructing somebody and you're briefing about complex concepts, make sure you avoid jargon. Jargon is, it could be a language or words that people don't understand, and tailor your message to your audience, right? If you're in front of a patient group and you're using technical medical terms and treatments, you're using heavy medical words, do you think your message is going to be conveyed? Definitely not. So it's important to simplify your complex concepts so that you tailor the message to the audience that you're delivering. Okay? Right. So this is about verbal. Now let's talk about non-verbal. Okay? In non-verbal communication, especially, this is where this is what happens in clinical setting most of the time. Okay, but as I've said in the verbal part on the rule of communication, your body language is a part of non-verbal communication, right? So let's look at the five points that we have in non-verbal: eye contact, facial expressions, posture, hand gestures, and personal space. Eye contact is maintained, an eye contact when you're talking to somebody, when you're addressing somebody. Okay. Number two, your facial expressions. Are you showing right facial expressions for that message? Now, is uh, this is more important in conflict situations. We are trying to resolve a conflict that could play a very important role. Even if you're not talking, the person in front of you can get annoyed because of the facial expressions that you have. Yeah. Posture wise, how is your posture? Is it closed, folded hands, or is it open? To open, as in to welcome the message that you are getting. Okay, your posture plays a role. Are you looking forwards when somebody is nodding, or are you just laid back and just looking here and there? What do you think is going to happen? So, your posture, your facial expressions, and eye contact, these are really important things. Hand gestures, okay? Really important to use hand gestures, right? Some people use a lot of hand gestures, which distracts the audience from your message. Some people don't use any hand gestures at all and stand like a statue. Both doesn't work, right? If you're somebody who doesn't feel confident in front of a crowd and you still want to deliver a message, right? And you don't know what to do with these hands, they are either hyperactive or non reactive completely. So, what do you do? All you do is you hold them in this position. Can you see this? And stand like this, okay? And talk, right? And hold them somewhere just under your chest or at the level of, yeah, under your chest, arms relaxed, okay? And you're standing there. That's a hand gesture, okay? That will not only make you look confident, but that will also prevent the distractions that you would have created because of your excessive hand gestures. Where you need hand gestures, you do, okay? Especially, now let me give you a coaching scenario. You must have seen Tony Robbins. You must have seen various other coaches who stand in front of the crowd and they are telling people to do something. And you've seen people are mesmerized by the messages that they get from their coaches. What do these coaches do with their hands? This. This is the single one thing that you do, right? And that creates the authority, right? So I'm talking about if you want to be a leader, you've got to be aware of all these pointers: eye contact, facial expressions, posture, your hand gestures, especially in big board meetings. You don't want to be showing too many hand gestures. Okay. And last but not the least is personal space. Okay. Stand an arm's distance from somebody. Okay. How would you feel if somebody came this close to you? Like close to your face. That's intimate space. Okay? You don't do that. So you've got to respect other person's personal space. And say, for example, you might say, but Priya, some people come too close to me. And it's difficult. It might look unpolite, do anything at that point. Yes, you can do something about it. While you're talking, just politely step back. Take a step back. Okay? So try, some people don't realize that and it happens unknowingly. Okay, but what you can do about it is you can create that personal space and have that, ensure that gap is there, appropriate, step back if they are too close to you. Okay, now let's look at our third component. Now, I know most of you and my followers are those who want to progress in their career, especially towards physio leadership or healthcare leadership, right? So this written skill is very important, right? So what do we have in written? The message, either you're documenting your patient notes, you are writing meeting minutes, you are producing reports, or you're producing executive summaries. Okay? You've got to ensure that the message that you're giving is clear and concise. You use proper grammar. There are various tools like Grammarly, if you haven't already come across, that ensures that the grammar is checked. Okay? Structure. Okay, structure in a way that the message is conveyed in the right way. It should follow a certain path. For example, if you're writing a report, you would start with an introduction or background, and then you would say what happened in the past and what you're asking for and what was the conclusion. So always there's an introduction, there's a body, and there's a conclusion. Do not leave any message without concluding. So always give them a purpose. They should know what they are reading about. And at the end, they should remember what are the key highlights of that report. Okay, so conclude it in a way that your message is conveyed. If there are any actions to be given or taken after that report, following that report, you'll have to write that as a clear message in recommendations. Okay, so if you have any recommendations as an expert, you could say that. So you want two things from them: number one, number two, number three, or number two, one, number one, number two, or if you have two or three, just at one, two, three, but be clear and concise. Number three is tailoring the tone to the audience. Okay, who is this report going to? Is it going to be a communication message to a patient group? Is it going to be a message which is going to go to your colleagues, staff who work in your department, or is it going to be a formal report? Okay, so you have to tailor the tone to the audience. Tailor the tone, not your voice tone, but the tone of your report, style of your report. Okay, and using professional language. Okay, if you want to use any short forms, for example, let's talk about NHS, National Health Service. Okay, if I was writing a report, if I was writing about it in one of my documents, for the first time when I write about NHS, I will say National Health Service into bracket NHS capital. Okay, and from there on, if I'm using NHS again, I would say NHS, because then it's clear that you're talking about NHS, which is National Health Service. Similar example of Chartered Society of Physiotherapy, CSP. Not everyone would know what is CSP. If you're a physio, you would know what is CSP. Not your colleagues from other professions, right? So if you want to write about CSP, talk about CSP, you would write Chartered Society of Physiotherapy, CSP into bracket, and then wherever you want to use CSP again in your document, in your message, then say CSP, right? Clear? Now, Okay, so we are done with using professional language. We know that message has to be clear and concise, using proper grammar and structure, tailoring the tone to the audience, and using professional language. And this will work for both patient documentation as well as any reports or meeting minutes that you produce at work. And last but not the least, for today's video, we are going to talk on active listening. I know I've touched about it in verbal and non-verbal communication, but give some more attention, because active listening is like the most important thing that's required, especially in this day and age where everyone wants to respond instead of listening to somebody, right? So, number one is paying attention. Okay, how can you show that? How can you show that you're paying attention? Nodding, have a smile on your face, dependent on what the situation is being discussed, right? Eye contact, maintain eye contact with that person, nod every now and then in agreement or in disagreement, depending on the conversation, right? And show them actively that you're listening to them and they're important. Okay. Number two is avoiding interruptions. Now, take this as a challenge. When you go back to work tomorrow, or when you spend time with your family today or on weekends, just think about it consciously. When you start talking, the person who you're talking to, do they listen to you patiently or do they interrupt you? If they do interrupt you, how do you feel about that interruption? That's exactly how the other person is going to feel, especially at work. If somebody's telling you something and you interrupt them, you're disrespecting them. Okay? And number three is asking clarifying questions. Okay? So ask questions and paraphrase. So always remember, when you're talking to somebody and somebody sharing things with you, you don't understand it fully, ask and clarify so that you understood what they're trying to say. So that is called paraphrasing. Okay? And paraphrasing to confirm the understanding. So just say, this is what you said, right? And confirm that before you do anything. So these are the four components of communication that are important as a healthcare professional. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like this video and share with your colleagues and spread this message. If you have anything specific that you wish to get covered in this video or any subsequent videos, please comment below and let Priya Physio know how I can help you and which topics you're looking for. And if you want any clinical scenario based communication examples, I will be more than happy to touch on that. Direct message me on YouTube or Instagram. And this is Priya Physio signing off. Bye.